Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the MEANZ Business Net Zero Insights webinar series. We'll just give another minute or so to allow people to join the call, and then we'll make a start. We will be recording this session and we'll be muting participant mics throughout, so please use the chat function if you need to get in contact with us, and then just make sure your Teams mic is turned off on your end so as we can avoid any background noise. Okay, I think we'll make a start. We will have more people joining the call as we go along, so that's fine. We do have a couple of short polls that we'll be asking you to complete, so please keep your smartphone handy because there'll be a QR code on the screen. That's the easiest way to get involved in the polls. And we will be sharing the slides and the recording from today's session with the attendees, so we'll do that after. Okay, so if we move on to the next slide, today's webinar is the 5th of 8 online webinars being delivered as part of our Net Zero Insights webinar series. My name's Connor. I'm the Net Zero Innovation and Delivery Manager for Mid and East Antrim Borough Council. I'm responsible for implementing the MEANZ Business project that this Net Zero Insights series is a part of. This webinar, as you'll know, is all about green business practices and how you can take simple steps to a better bottom line. So hopefully it'll be useful for the businesses and the organisations on the call. We've two excellent speakers joining us to help us around that concept and explain how it can be put into practice and what it might mean for your business. So first we'll hear from Megan McCamley at Business and Community, and she'll be followed by Darren Semple at McCue Fit. So in terms of the polls, just in anticipation of getting ready for those, the QR code and screen should take you directly to the poll, which will come on screen whenever we get to that point, or you can join at slido.com with the code that's on screen now if needs be. So we'll bring that back up on screen again when it gets to the first poll, but just in terms of what we want to cover today, so welcome and introductions, obviously we're doing now. Megan from Business and Community will do her talk on green business practices, and then we'll have our company case study from Darren at McCue Fit. You will be able to ask questions just in the chat, so please just post those in the chat and we'll pick those up at the end. So Megan's environmental advisor at Business and Community, and she'll share her thoughts on green business practices and what it might mean for your business, and particularly how you can make savings as a result. And then Darren is the HSEQ Manager at McCue Fit, and he'll give you some insights into how McCue have approached green business practices and what it has meant for them. So what to expect, maximum 45 minutes, 10 minutes from each of our two speakers. Do post your questions in the chat. As I noted, the session's been recorded, and then we'll have some feedback from yourselves via polls. So in terms of setting the context for this Net Zero Insights series, it's part of our MEANZ Business project. It's an Innovate UK funded project, which is all about, it's designed to help local authorities address non-technical barriers to achieving net zero. So it's part of the Fast Followers programme within the Net Zero Living theme under Innovate UK's programmes, and we hope that it'll increase understanding and knowledge of decarbonisation and net zero, and part of that is obviously sharing what others are doing in that arena. So there's 4 key work packages under our MEANZ Business project. The first one is our Insights programme, so it's all about knowledge transfer and best practice sharing, and obviously that's what we're doing today. We also have corporate decarbonisation package. So internally in council, we're working on a number of initiatives on our own net zero journey. We then have an industry decarbonisation programme, which is all about supporting industry on their journey to net zero. And then we have a Future Ready programme, which is about sharing insights, sharing knowledge and experience across the Innovate UK network, and sharing with other programmes and other projects that are funded by that net zero living theme. So just to collect some data from those on the call, if you've been on any of our calls before, you'll have seen this same question. We try to ask it at each of our webinars just to track the learning. So we'd love to know what the biggest challenges for your business or organization are in reducing your own carbon footprint or reaching net zero. So QR code is on the screen. If you use your smartphone to start answering that. We are still waiting on some more attendees to join us. Hopefully they will do. We'll track these answers as we go along with each of the webinars, and we'll use that to obviously analyse where our businesses and where our attendees think their business or organisation faces the most challenge. So finance or investment, obviously quite common as one of the top answers. Decarbonising energy usage, knowledge and expertise, stakeholder awareness or buy-in. Still some answers coming in there. Okay, if we move on to the next one, Donna, please. This is another question. This is more about where on the journey your business or organization currently sits. So this is a bit of a scale. Have you thought about it? Are you beginning to plan? Are you well advanced? Have you achieved net zero or any other? And welcome any comments in the chat as well. Beginning to plan, have a plan, and are implementing it. Probably unlikely to see too many of you that haven't thought about it yet. Maybe one or two, and then probably not too many that have achieved net zero as a business yet either. Most of the responses tend to fall into somewhere in between those two. Okay, that's another 9 or 10 responses there. So keep us, yeah, we'll give another second or two there. There's a few more responding. So most of you that have responded are beginning to plan or have a plan and are implementing it. So if there's any more you want to share on that, just the chat function should be available to you there. So if there's any other comments, just put those in the chat. Okay. I think we'll move on then to Megan. As mentioned, environmental advisor and business community. Megan's going to do 10 minutes on green business practices for us.
Hello, everyone. I'll just start with a quick intro. So obviously I'm Megan McCamley, Business in the Community. I've been well introduced. In the next slide, I'll just give a quick breakdown about what we do in Business in the Community, if you're not aware. So we are Northern Ireland's only network for responsible business. And this graphic on screen describes what we do as an organisation in quite a simplified way. If you just look to the left of the graphic, a responsible business considers these 3 areas of people, planet and place. In the environment team, we tend to focus a lot on the planet, and that's what we'll talk a bit about today, thinking about different green business practices that exist and actions that you can take. But I would encourage you to think a bit broader as well. When you're thinking about your responsible business, your green business practices, to think about the people element and place as well. So people being your employees and place being your wider community, your local community. This webinar is focusing on green business practices and how they can improve your business performance. But when we take that wider lens, we're thinking about things such as your workforce, how you can have a happier, healthier workforce, how you can have improved employee well-being and employee engagement. And this can all lead to better staff retention, which obviously feeds into the better bottom line in some ways in terms of staff retention and so on. So these are all crucial to businesses' ongoing success and longevity. In the next slide then, I'll just give a quick intro about what we do in the environment team. So we have 3 core business areas that we look at. We have the environmental benchmarking survey. That's our longest running project. It's in its 27th year this year, and it's a free environmental management self-disclosure exercise. So organisations can disclose what they're doing in terms of their environmental performance, and they get ranked from bronze all the way up to platinum. And I'll have an example of one of those later in the slides. We have nature and biodiversity. This includes how our businesses are working within their biodiversity and how they want to improve their biodiversity performance. And this falls under our business and biodiversity charter. And then our final sort of area of work is business action on climate. And that's where a lot of my work falls into. So We work with businesses who are at various stages on their environmental journeys, and we support them through training and workshops and different advisory services. So I'll jump onto the next slide, which is sort of a broad overview on why we should be taking climate action. So a few ideas there on the screen. Firstly, we can think about boosting reputation. So increasingly firms are coming under pressure to make credible climate commitments, and be able to tackle this head on is an opportunity to boost your reputation within your clients, with your employees, your customers, and it can increase client loyalty as well. It can reduce costs, which is something we're going to talk about a lot throughout today's webinar. So I'll not go into too much detail on that now. It can reduce risk as well. So understanding and reducing your emissions will enable you to identify and manage climate risks across the supply chain. And being able to understand these risks can also open your eyes to some of the opportunities that can come from this as well. So this knowledge can be used in the future to decide where you're making investment decisions and so on. And then most importantly, we should be taking climate action because it's the right thing to do. We all have a responsibility for our actions, for our business, for the emissions that we produce. And now is a great time to get ahead of the curve, understand your emissions, where they're coming from, and start taking responsibility for them. So I'm going to look now at some specific green business practices, quite a few on the screen there. I'm not going to go into a lot of them in a huge amount of detail, and I believe Darren will cover a few of these later as well. But I'll just run through them. If you think first of energy efficiency, this could be the likes of investing in energy efficient appliances, insulation of your walls, your roofs, draft proofing, regular maintenance checks, and so on. These can all improve your efficiency. Renewable energy generation, so that could be whether that's on-site solar or investing in wind generation elsewhere. Sustainable procurement, so that's basically about buying things in a way that's good for the environment, society, and the economy altogether. And it kind of asks you to consider the cost over a longer period of time and not just that upfront investment. We have waste management and circular economy, which I think will be touched on later, and measuring your emissions. That can look along all scope 1, 2, and 3 and along your supply chain. But one thing I'm going to focus on is this idea of active travel and the role that plays. So the way your employees travel to work is included within your scope 3 emissions. So where possible, commuting by public transport, walking, cycling. These are all the least energy intensive ways your employees can commute to work, and that's going to reduce your emissions within your scope 3 as well. And if we think back to this idea of having a sort of responsible business overall, it's going to lead to a healthier, happier workforce as well. If you want to think in rural areas, I know public transport isn't always as accessible. You could use this idea with car sharing, be that to and from work, also maybe between business sites or to business meetings. And it's just sort of thinking about that cultural shift in the way we think about how business works. Similar to that would be your employee engagement. So this can cover a range of things, such as idea sharing, innovation. It can improve staff morale. It can lead to better staff retention. And this is all good for the bottom line in the big picture. So essentially, you want to have trust in your employees to know that they know what they're doing, and they know what they're doing in their role, and their ideas are good, and just trust them that they might have good ideas and how they can do it better, and that can be beneficial for you as well. So like I've said, this all comes down to behaviour change and this cultural shift that may be required in your organisation before you can start implementing some of these green practices. And a big part of that is education. So this slide here, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but we do a lot of training and workshops with business in the community. This is one of our programs that includes carbon literacy training, which is a great way to start thinking about training up your staff. And we have a few spots left for this training. It begins next week and the deadline is tomorrow. So I'm going to pop a link to that in the chat later if anyone is interested. It's part funded, so there's potential there to get this training at a discount as well. But I'm not going to talk about that anymore. The next slide is an example from our Northern Ireland benchmarking survey. Like I mentioned, it's one of our core business areas. And on the screen there is an example of one of the questions that links to employee engagement. So like I said, all of the participants are ranked from bronze up to platinum, platinum being the best performing businesses. And in the 2024 survey, every organisation that achieved platinum says that they're doing all 5 of these things in terms of employee engagement. So they're promoting environmental awareness among employees, they provide relevant training on environmental issues, they seek input and opinions from employees, And they say that environmental issues are part of the work culture and contribute to the continuous business improvement. So there is a link there between employee engagement and improved environmental performance over time. So it's an interesting one to think about as well. In the next slide, I'm going to go into just a bit more detail about some of those green business practices and how they practically can lead to cost savings. So energy efficiency, like I said, the likes of your insulation, draft proofing, double glazing, all those simple things that you can do lead to cost savings, because energy efficiency is simply the practice of using less energy to provide the same amount of useful output. So your energy bills are going to be lower if you can make your buildings and sites more energy efficient. Minimising waste, then, that can reduce disposal costs, and you can minimise waste at the source. You can recycle your waste more efficiently, and you can even trade your waste to generate revenue as well. So there could be an option there. If we think about compliance with regulations now, even if that's just voluntary reporting, will help you stay ahead of the curve and potentially avoid penalties for non-compliance later. So something to keep in mind. And then just to keep in mind as well, of access to funding and incentives that can help you offset the initial costs of transitioning to some of those more sustainable practices. So this could help with capital investments in larger projects such as on-site renewable generation. And we do have a section on our website that we keep updated with grants and stuff that are live, and that is linked in the slides there. You should be able to access that when these are sent out later. Thinking about climate risk management broadly, that's kind of everything that we're covering today. But if we look more specifically at managing our climate risks, that can be done through contingency planning. So we're getting more extreme weather across NI as a result of climate change, and that can lead to things such as supply chain disruption, delays, resource shortages, and these can all lead to reduction in your productivity if you have disruption in your production. So by having a contingency plan in place and thinking ahead about what you want to do when these instances of extreme weather occur, they're going to occur more and more. That's going to save you money in the long run. So you're not just losing out on those days. And then finally, just a quick note on cost, which is a common sort of barrier to getting started on these things. A good example of this is about solar panels. So these are a warranty of around 25 to 30 years, and they can have a payback period of around 5 to 10 years. So if you're able to have that mindset shift and think in the long run, some of those big investments will pay for themselves over time and pay for themselves quite quickly as well. If you think on a smaller scale, even those energy efficiency measures that I talked about, your maintenance, your repairs, your insulation, they obviously cost money, but they will save money in the long term with your energy bills. So it's about that cultural shift and that behaviour change. And sometimes that's needed to get up to more sort of senior level, the people who are making the decisions, to know that these are the right things to invest in. And in the last slide, just to sum up, this is just a snip from a different survey. It's 2024 SME Climate Hub survey, and there is a range of figures on the right-hand side there of benefits that can be gained from taking climate action. So it's linked to improved business reputation, like I mentioned at the start. There are branding benefits, and then in this survey, 30% of organisations said that they won new customers as a result of taking climate action. So this could be linked to the fact that carbon literacy training and different sort of environmental things are being included in tenders and stuff going forward. So this can lead to new customers and new jobs that can come up. So it's really essential for the longevity of your organisation. Essentially, there's no downside to taking climate action. I've went through that quite quickly, and I'm going to pass on to Darren now, who's going to hopefully put a bit of those into context with his case study. And yeah, thank you very much. Over to you, Darren.
Thanks, Megan. So good morning all, my name is Darren Semple and I'm the HSEQ Manager for McCue. And McCue's a fit-out company based in Carrickfergus, specialising in bespoke joinery, hard surface fabrication and project management. We work through NI, ROI, GB in Europe. I also take this opportunity to thank Connor, Don and the team for the invite to speak to you today on McCue's sustainability journey so far. Next slide, please, Don. McCue invested into their environmental sustainability journey for a number of reasons. So to ensure legal compliance, the moral and ethical responsibility to limit the impact their activities have on the planet, client demands, and financial reductions. So we currently hold our ISO 14001 Environmental Management Accreditation, along with our FSC accreditation. And FSC stands for Forest Stewardship Council. This accreditation ensures we're using sustainably sourced timber, which is very important as a bespoke joinery company. Back in 2019, 2020, we invested in sustainability software called SustainIQ. We use this software to capture scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions alongside all our data. For a number of years, we have entered the NI benchmarking survey through the business and the community, and we're currently hold the top platinum award, being ranked in the top 40 companies within Northern Ireland. We also hold a fourth accreditation, which is our Fleet Operator Recognition Scheme. And this accreditation revolves around fleet management. And this has continued to evolve throughout the years with more and more requirements around sustainability. We collaborate with InvestNI for fundings and grants, and we are currently working with IDNI, which is an Industrial Decarbonisation Northern Ireland, Middle East Antrim, and most recently FinTech. Next slide, please, Donna. So in order to legally comply and to maintain our accreditations, we implement policies, procedures, and set out objectives for environmental and sustainability practices. These are regularly reviewed and updated. One of our current objectives set is waste to landfill, which we target below 1% of our overall waste produced go to landfill. We've got a company carbon reduction plan setting our targets in line with the governmental targets of net zero by 2050, with our first target fast approaching at the end of the year to reduce our carbon footprint by 20%. We've installed a biomass boiler into our workshop, which provides heat to the bench machine and coring areas throughout the warehouse. We've also replaced our fluorescent lighting, installing LED lighting throughout the head office, and currently sitting in our newly refurbed office at the minute, which has just been completed. And we installed a 100 kilowatt solar PV at our head office. So for this, we produced a business case, and the outcome was it was going to cost 60k with an estimate payback within 5 years. In the last 2 years, we've had a cost saving of approximately 25k, and we foresee the payback to be achieved within the 5 years. Waste minimisation initiatives. So we use our timber offcuts within the workshop to recover heat through our biomass burner. For each of our projects, we complete site-specific environmental management plans and site waste management plans, ensuring all measures are implemented. Where possible, we donate furniture from our refurbishment works. We contact local charities to see if we can donate the furniture rather than dispose of this. Does this reduce waste? As the furniture is reused, it saves costings for the company. Selection of waste carriers, we take into account the location, their environmental targets, and the costings. And training has also been completed, in particular SEEKS training, which was one of our IMS objectives last year. The SEEKS training is site environmental awareness training, and this was completed throughout our site managers to give them the awareness of the segregation and minimisation of waste. We've got a green tariff in place, so all of our electricity within our head office is 100% renewable, and we've completed BREEAM and SKA projects. So this is a process for sustainable building management, and we completed our first BREEAM project back in 2020 and achieved an excellent rating. And we are awaiting the outcome of our first SKA project, which has recently been completed, an NI with the target of gold, which would be the top rating. Last year, we had 2 energy audits conducted at our head office. These were completed by InvestNI and IDNI, with McCue receiving reports and recommendations on how to reduce their energy consumption further. And this was a free service. Next slide, please, Donna. I'll move on. Challenges along the way. So, change management. Culture change can be difficult. The question is Why, along with the introduction of new processes, procedures, and additional works of input and data. Quality of data gathered. So site-based data, we've seen barriers such as language barriers when inputting data through QR code systems. This has dramatically improved since the introduction of the software. And as I say, accuracy of data is key to allow calculated decisions to be made for future initiatives to be implemented. Internal and external reporting. So internal reporting for management takes time throughout the year. With external HSEQ reporting, which McCue is currently doing. The HSEQ stands for the Streamline Energy Carbon Reporting. And to me, this came to me new last year, and I had to learn, communicate with others, and put a lot of time and effort to ensure we met the legal requirements of this report. Capture of Scope 3 data. So these are indirect emissions, mainly out of the McCue control. This has been a challenge to gather this information, especially from your supply chain. Time restraints. So as a few people in here is in the same boat as me, sustainability is not my primary role. It's become a major add-on with workplace demands. And it's not just additional responsibilities for me, it's additional responsibilities for members of the team. And lastly, financial aspects. So cost increases, for example, maintaining our accreditations, we're seeing the cost rise, and then cost of materials. FSC materials can be more expensive than non-FSC timbers, especially for hardwoods. You then have your major investments such as solar PV, which isn't cheap. The first install had no grants or funding. Next slide, please, Donna. So the company set targets to be net zero by 2050. These targets may change as we move forward. However, we will continue to monitor the data gathered and collate with others in order to learn, implement further initiatives to reduce our carbon footprint. It was only this week that I learned that net zero does not necessarily mean reducing our emissions by 100%. 10% can be offset, resulting in an overall target of 90% reduction. So the chart at the top left shows our progress from our baseline year in 2021. So the blue line denotes our targets through to 2025, with the orange line denoting our actual results. As I said earlier, our target is a 20% reduction by 2025, and as you can see, we are on target to meet this. The chart at the top right and bottom right of the screen shows data with and without air travel from our baseline year. The top chart shows a 38.1% reduction from our baseline year. However, the bottom chart only shows a 5.8% reduction due to additional reporting of our air travel. Lastly, the tables at the bottom left show the data collected from our baseline year with and without air travel. So as we start to introduce new Scope 3 emissions, our carbon data will increase. It's important to McCue that we are showing the company's completeness, ensuring that our footprint appropriately reflects the GHG emissions of the company. Next slide, please, Donna. So what we plan for the future. So we're looking to introduce carbon literacy training for employees in our supply chain, and we're currently in process of talks with this. We're looking to install additional solar PV to our head office, and we've currently applied for a grant through Invest NI, which gives up to 40% of the costings to a certain limit. Installation of EV charging points at the company head office, and the update of the company fleet. So that could be to EV vehicles, hopefully in the future hydrogen vehicles, and along with changing to renewable fuel sources, which is HVOs. We're just hoping that the costing of the HVOs come in paramount with the cost of our current fuel. Grow program. So we're successful in an application receiving 15 hours mentoring, which started in person this week. And the first session was very educational and a great help to me. We've also got biodiversity plans. So we're planning to manufacture insect hotels using our company apprentices and sustainably sourced timber. And we plan to contact local community school to install these. And the planting of a wild garden at our head office. Slide. So this slide can be seen in our company website, and it's a snapshot of our ESG and sustainability reporting from the data that we gather all year through our Sustain IQ. So McCue is committed to the 5 pillars of carbon reporting: relevance, completeness, consistency, transparency, and accuracy, with the additional reporting of Scope 3 emissions, with future plans to report on the additional emissions, and this will be rail, sea, and claim mileage, etc. 2024, we generated 56,952 kilowatt through solar PV, with approximately 15k saving. We had a 14% increase in charitable donations, and we achieved the Platinum Award in the NI Benchmarking Survey 2024. Next slide, please. So we've got our 3 pillars here: planet, people, and place. Top left, it shows we reached our waste management objective last year, with only a 0.4% of waste being sent to landfill. Just below that shows the percentage breakdown of Scope 1 to 3 GHG emissions. And Scope 3 is showing 39.1%. This is a 34% increase to our Scope 3 due to the additional emissions added for air travel. For training and development, so this is gathered data, gathered from our employees, subcontractors, and suppliers throughout the year. We also supported 6 charities, donating £4,458.73. And on to the last slide, please. So, just before I finish, if anyone's looking to complete the NI Benchmarking Survey this year, and it's your first year completing it, if you want to get in touch, please feel free. I'll do what I can to help you, but also it could help us. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll pass you back on to the team.
Excellent. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Megan, for those 2 presentations. I don't think we have any direct questions in the chat, but I had a couple of thoughts. Firstly, for yourself, Darren, you talked about the accuracy of data, and you had a barrier when you were collecting data on sites, and you mentioned a language barrier and trying to make sure you got that right. Can you tell us a bit more about what that process was? It wouldn't be a barrier that you would necessarily expect to pop up whenever you're collecting data at sites. So what was that? What was a bit more now? Oh, you're on mute, just Darren, if you unmute. Yeah.
Yes. So we would do a lot of work in the UK mainland, and we've found coming through the sites, you could have a lot of foreign nationals, and using the QR code system, you have to fill in details, and the details were getting completed incorrectly, which was when we were downloading the data from Sustain IQ, it was showing inconsistency in the data. So we had to then look back at the data, figure out what was going wrong, and then ensure that we had potentially security measures in place to oversee the data being inputted so it was correct, which has dramatically improved the data being inputted over the last number of years.
Yeah. That's really interesting. One of the non-technical barriers that Innovate UK are supporting us with across the Fast Followers project is net zero data and the accuracy of it and where you get it and what you do with it. So interesting that just as simple as collecting probably very basic details as that can prove problematic at times. So interesting to hear how you'd got around that, and maybe helpful for some of the other companies in the call. And Megan, just one other question then for yourself. You're obviously working with businesses across the board. If you had one piece of advice to give those businesses that are kind of in the early stages of this reporting on their Scope 1, 2, and 3, what would it be if there's one piece of advice?
I think probably to sort of not be overwhelmed by it and just get started. If you start looking at your Scope 1 and 2 and sort of disregard Scope 3 while you're just getting started, that can make things a lot simpler. And that can really help take away some of the nerves around how daunting it can be. And then also just to look into some training that's available. So there's a lot of great resources out there that are free. And even through our website, we have toolkits and advice that can help you. And like I mentioned, I'll just do another plug for the training we have coming up. It's a great course, our climate action program. We have part funded program that's kicking off next week, and we have a few spots left. And if anyone is interested in carbon literacy training, we have workshops that take you through how to measure your scope 1 and 2 emissions, and it's really tailored for people who are just getting started on that journey. So if that's of interest to anyone on the call, definitely do. But there's a lot of other resources on our website, and definitely do get in touch if you want to be directed to any of those useful resources. But I think the biggest thing is to not get overwhelmed, because then you'll do nothing. So even small steps are really beneficial.
Okay, thank you. And equally, I suppose if people want to get in touch with themselves too, we can hopefully signpost you in the right direction to some of that support. There is one question there in the chat that we'll maybe finish with, directed towards yourself, Darren. Frank's asked, what are the simplest or most effective things you would recommend if you're only recently starting on your net zero journey?
What I would recommend is collaborate with others, communicate. So use the resources out there. Megan just spoke about the free resources. So use these. Go online, look them up. Use your councils, use IDNI, use Clean Tech. These are all free resources and meetings that can be used to go and learn with other companies. And then from there, start to gather your data. And you don't necessarily need to invest in software. This can be done from spreadsheets, the older school type of way, and start collating this data, look at your data and see where your costings and your energy consumptions and your miles and your scope 1 and 2 and 3 is coming in. And then start to take out the low hanging fruit. And that would be probably my suggestion.
Okay, thanks Ian. Darren, Megan, thank you very much. Donna, we'll move on. There's a couple of other poll questions and we promised you not more than 45 minutes. So again, using the QR code on the screen, this is just to track your learning hopefully through this webinar. So the first question there is, has your knowledge and understanding of green business practices increased during this webinar? And we'll give you 20 seconds hopefully to respond. Yep. Overwhelmingly positive so far. If it hasn't, if you already knew this, feel free to say no. We'll not take offense. Feel free to say no if it hasn't. Okay, 9 responses on there. Donna, if we move on to the next one then, I think there's a couple more of these. So yeah, would you be likely to implement any of the ways to develop green practices that have been discussed today within your own business or your own organization? Some of those simple practices and those simple measures obviously can be low cost, high impact, which I know is what a lot of the SMEs would be certainly hoping to implement. Okay, same number of responses again, kind of about half of the group or slightly more. So not sure or likely. It's excellent. Okay, and final one then is, again, what are the most significant barriers to green practices within your business? So any of the stuff that we've discussed today in terms of implementing any of that, what are the big things that would maybe stop you from doing that? Quite similar to one of the earlier poll questions, but again, it helps us to track where we should provide support for our businesses across Mid and East Antrim, and how we should be supporting them along their journey. And Darren mentioned about some of the more basic methods of collating and analysing your scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. We're working on a project at the minute with our Clean Tech network to help companies do that, which we'll be rolling out more information on in due course. But we're hopeful that a toolkit we're putting together will help companies along that journey at whatever stage, either reminding you how to do it if you've done it before or helping you along the journey to start off. Okay. That's us in terms of poll questions. Just a quick reminder, this is our 5th. I know there's 4 dates down the left-hand side, but Wednesday, the 2nd of October, we had 2 webinars. So this is our 5th webinar completed today. We have 3 remaining as part of this series. April is carbon accounting and emissions reporting, and that'll be led by Carbon Fit. 8th of May is Waste Less, Profit More. It's all about circular economy. It'll be led by Innovate UK's Business Connect team. And then June will be Sustainable Investment Planning, which I know a lot of you have noted as one of the key barriers to achieving net zero within your own organisations. And we'll be supported on that one by City Science, who are one of our MEANZ Business project supports. There is another question there. We might maybe, well, we'll see if we can follow up, if we have time to follow up at the very end. Yeah, we'll take it now, actually, in the Slido. 1 second, I'll just pick it up from Stephen. How did you go about getting the energy audit completed, Darren? You mentioned 2 different ones. Can you pick that one up very quickly?
Yeah, so we get 2 energy audits completed by InvestNI and IDNI. So the InvestNI audit, I worked alongside a colleague and we were communicating with InvestNI, and it was discussed about an energy audit and it was offered. So we took it, and it was similar to IDNI. I had been going to the meetings for IDNI for just over a year now, and I was offered a free energy audit and I took it. And it was as simple as that. I put the time and effort in to collaborate with these people and managed to get the service from them.
Okay, thank you. So quite straightforward by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
obviously
very
some of those supports might not still be available, but I don't have the name of the person who asked that in the chat, but certainly if you want to get in touch with us directly, we'll try and find out if there's any other opportunities to get involved in that type of support. So on the remaining series webinars within the series, we'll be circulating these dates and the registration information in due course. And obviously we have some very good speakers and company case studies lined up as we deliver the remainder of those. So they'll be advertised on our social media pages. And if you've signed up for this webinar, hopefully you should get an email directly as well. So just to close us out and finish up, the final slide then has my contact details on it. As I say, if there's anything else you'd like to know, if you'd like to follow up on anything we've discussed today, certainly do get in touch. Again, the QR code will give you the contact details directly to your phone. All's left for me to do then today is to thank our speakers, Megan and Darren, and then to all of you for taking the time to come and join us. So thank you very much to all of you, and yeah, to Megan and Darren for taking their time to speak. And the next webinar then, we'll see you on Thursday, the 3rd of April, again at 11 o'clock. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Million.
Cheers, thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Be in touch. Thank you.
Have to try. See.